Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome.
There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
As long as the Matrix exists, the human race will never be free.
Start somewhere. It has to start sometime. What better place than here? What better time than now?
Terrorists! Terrorize this.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. This means greater coverage and analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign, but close at hand and local. It means greater attention to improved understanding of the news, as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits of national security. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
Well, that ended a little abruptly. You're supposed to say, pursuit of happiness, but it didn't go that far. Anyways, everybody, that was John F. Kennedy, 48 years ago today. He was gunned down in the streets of Dallas. Obviously, any thinking person can probably figure out at this point that it was not a lone gunman in Lee Harvey Oswald, but there was a great conspiracy to murder a president whose intention was to expose the agenda that we are all living in right now and to get rid of the Federal Reserve through Executive Order 11111. After he was gunned down, murdered in front of America, his vice president, LBJ, reversed Executive Order 1111. And you would think that two guys who ran for presidency together, their core values would be somewhat similar, and the vice president would continue on with the great work that John F. Kennedy was attempting to do. But that's not what happened, so there we have a globalist sellout in LBJ, pretty much squashing any hope for freedom and destroying the Federal Reserve, whose tyranny we're all living under now. So I thought it was appropriate to start the show off with John F. Kennedy's Secret Society speech. I mean, in that speech, he's informing the American public that there is a conspiracy against you all, against all of us, and he's pleading for you to be aware, for us to be aware, and pleading for the media to help him inform all of us. Obviously, that did not take place. The media is controlled by 5 corporations, all heavily invested in globalism and war. So you will never hear the truth from your mainstream media. That's why you have to come to little shows like this on the interwebs. And on that note, let me give you all the official greeting. Greetings, Native Americans, pilgrims, preppers, and truth seekers. It is Tuesday, November 22nd, and you have found yourself giving thanks for being wide awake here on the front lines in this war on our humanity. I'm your host, Darren Stone, broadcasting to you live from the creme de la creme of FEMA regions. That's right, kids, FEMA Region 1. Top of the food chain when you're breaking down the FEMA regions. Tonight's call-in number is 917-889-3064 should you decide to let your voice be heard. Because remember, sitting on a curb, minding your own business, getting pepper sprayed in the face by some Nazi police officer is not time for you to make your voice heard. So, 917-889-3064. That is the call-in number for tonight's program. All callers are welcome. Agree, disagree, constructive criticism, top secret info. Give me a buzz. First, I'd like to explain why we're doing a show on a Tuesday. As you may have noticed from my posts, we had a death in the family. Those of you who've been listening to the show for a while, you may have heard a high-pitched bark in the background sometimes. That was my little dog, Nita, half Mexican, half Asian, all matriarch. She has passed away Sunday night. I don't remember what time, but anyway, I just needed a day off after that. My dogs are like my kids, so it's a little traumatic. And just decided to take the day off because I'm not going to do a show on Thursday. It is Turkey Day. Let's take a break from all the doom and gloom and enjoy our friends and families if you have the opportunity to be around them. So no show on Thursday. Just the only show this week, so that's why I rescheduled to Tuesday. So I'm handing in my note, everybody. I'm handing in my note. This is why I was absent last night. Before we get rolling, just let me plug the website. FrontRadio.net has all of your truth needs, news feeds for natural health, for survival, and all the news that I post up on a daily basis on Facebook and the website. Also, if you're Twitter, we are The Front on Twitter. The O is a 0. The Front, the O is a 0. YouTubers, check out The Front on YouTube. You can get over there from the FrontRadio.net website. Also, you Facebookers, membership's climbing on the Front's Facebook page. I want to say thank you to all you new people that have signed up in the past week. I really, really appreciate it. If you could do me a favor, when I post show links, please feel free to use any of the links that I post. Share them, use them. Feel free to post on that page. This is all about sharing information. It's not about being the guy with the big breaking news. I don't care about that at all. I want everybody to know as much as we all can. So let's all share it. Also, you may have noticed I threw a picture of a T-shirt up there. That's right. A pretty slick-looking T-shirt. You want to show off your big free-thinking brain. Those T-shirts will be available. I don't know if they'll be available by the end of next week, but shortly thereafter. We are not going to sell those T-shirts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a donate button on the website, frontradio.net, and for a donation of $20 or more, I'll send you a T-shirt. Now, the reason I'm doing this, you guys, is because this show costs me a little bit of money to do every month. I don't have much money coming in. Basically, in order to keep the show going, I need a little bit of support. I know I said I would never do that, but it is what it is. So if I get no support, then I know that the show's not worth continuing on for. So I'm just going to throw it out there like that. But the shirts are pretty slick, and I actually have plans to do a few more designs. So I don't really think there's anything bad selling T-shirts with a good message, an awakening message, and trying to get a little bit of survival cash along the way. So that being said, all right, let's get on with the program here. I don't think I forgot anything. Oh, if you want to shoot me an email, any questions, show ideas, topics, constructive criticism, shoot me an email at thefront@live.com. All right, once again, the call-in number is 917-889-3064. Okay, so we started the show out with Kennedy's Secret Society speech. You know, every time I hear that thing, it's just, how much more clear does it have to be? You know, if you were to get behind a podium at some event, public event, and the media captured you giving that exact same speech, they would call you a crazy conspiracy theorist. But yet that is one of the nation's most beloved presidents, John F. Kennedy, saying the same thing. So I guess John F. Kennedy's a conspiracy theorist like me. So is it really a theory, or is it actual fact that there is a globalist agenda to Well, to enslave you and kill you and force you into extreme poverty. It seems to be the way, right? It doesn't seem like anything's heading in the right direction, although you can ask a few people who have drank in the Obama Kool-Aid, and they'll tell you that everything's fine. Everything's fine. It's those dirty Republicans. And it is those dirty Republicans, but it's also those dirty-ass Democrats. So it's both of them, no difference. Anyways, let's move on from all that. All right, speaking of tyranny, everybody, one of the things we're going to cover tonight is trickle-down tyranny. It's an excellent analogy. I like the trickle-down tyranny thing. I've tried to get this point across on shows before. When we when we pull back and we look at what we've learned as people, what we're taught in our state-run school system, which, by the way, was formulated and created by the Rockefeller / Carnegie / Morgan empires. That's who created the education system in this country. And the reason they created it and helped to fund it is so that you and me and everybody else that's gone through the state-run school system would be taught a certain way of thinking, a certain belief system. And that belief system is a falsification of the country that we live in, meaning you're taught you're free and brave, and you are neither. Well, you're definitely not free. I think bravery comes down to an individual basis, but across the board, none of us are free because we're all subjected to the fiat currency and the central banking system, which is most likely why President Kennedy was shot, or actually probably a number of reasons why he was shot. Another one being Operation Northwoods. For those of you that don't know what Operation Northwoods was, it was a plot schemed up by the FBI and to frame Cuba for blowing commercial jetliners full of vacationing college students out of the air to get the American people to back an invasion of Cuba. Kennedy said, no way, I'm not going to do it. And also, again, he was trying to get rid of the Federal Reserve with Executive Order 11111. And those are two big reasons why you might catch a bullet from the New World Order. So we're taught about the fairy tale that is America, and we're also taught to be good, obedient slave workers. And that's where our education system came from. So when you kind of look at it like that, really, what have we been taught? Why have we been taught it? And what is the end game to all this? And Mr. Kennedy was trying to lay that out for us. He's trying to lay it out for us. And so on this program, I've tried to get across the point of when systems like the education system are implemented, and belief systems are implemented based on falsities, it allows people to carry out the agenda without even understanding that they're carrying out the agenda. And my prime example of this, and this is, I wanted to figure out a different way to talk about the UC Davis pepper spraying incident. And when you look at that, for those of you, most of us have seen it by now, we have this officer, I can't remember his name, walking down a line of UC Davis protesting students, locked arm in arm, sitting down on a sidewalk, and this officer nonchalantly, with a very large can of pepper spray, it's actually red spray, so it's probably like cayenne pepper spray, and he is walking up and down the line of students, just dousing them in pepper spray. And you know what? And you got to say something. I got to say this. You've never seen a Tea Party rally treated like this, right? And I'm pro whatever you want to get out there and talk about, because that's your right to free speech. I may not agree with you, but I support your right to go out there and say it. You got to hand these kids some credit. They have some balls. They didn't break ranks when they're getting doused in this stuff. They held strong. They kept their arms linked, okay? And not only did the one guy walk by and do it, But another guy came up and did it too. And both those people were suspended or actually not suspended. They were put on administrative leave by the chancellor of UC Davis. I don't know her name. But she is now facing heavy protest by the students, and I hope that she loses her job. I also, but that's again, that would be one person being kind of thrown to the lions, you know what I mean? So what we see is this behavior from these officers. This is tyrannical behavior. This is not Nazi behavior. This is 1930s Germany behavior. Even look at the shape of the police helmets. They are just like the German helmets, exactly like the German helmets, same color, same shape. This is why all of our officers, these police officers, all have black uniforms now. The color blue is a calming, trusting color. But no longer do officers wear blue uniforms. They all wear black uniforms, especially their riot gear. That's meant for intimidation. It's like a power suit for business. You put on your black business suit when you're going to go get in some hard negotiations. You're going to be in a very important meeting. It's a power suit, right? It gives the user, the person viewing you, it puts you in a position or a supposed position of power. So when I saw this article out of Natural News called Trickle Down Tyranny, it made sense. It worded it correctly for me. So I wanted to go over the article. I haven't read it like I normally don't do for the majority of articles on this program. I like to go through them together as a family. And the reason I want to do that is because, I don't really have an agenda on this program other than to try to find the truth out along with you guys, so we kind of do this together. So when I saw this article, Trickle Down Tyranny, that was an excellent phrase for the thing that I talk about, why these officers, why these people carry out these tyrannical these actions. And not just the physical actions of pepper spraying defenseless people, but actions like we heard on the last program or two programs ago, where that FDA woman was forcing that local farm group to throw out all their food, and here she comes enforcing the regulations of the FDA. You got to think. If you're a person being put in this situation, wouldn't you feel that you're doing the wrong thing? I mean, I've worked in jobs where I've felt I'm doing the wrong thing, and this was not something I wanted to be a part of, and I left. But I guess it comes down to conditioning, brainwashing through that school system that we were just talking about. That why these people can justify these things to themselves. It's like I've talked about these soldiers overseas. You hear them going on their 6th tour. They're not saying I'm going to fight for America or fight for freedom. They say they're going to go. They have to go get back to their boys. It's a bonding thing. It makes them feel guilty for not being there. You don't think the people that send them into war understand the dynamics of the human psyche and put you in that position to make you carry out those orders? Of course they do. Of course they do. Like Henry Kissinger said, military men are dumb, stupid animals to be used. It wasn't the exact wording, but it was right along those lines. Look it up. You'll see. It wasn't far off. But so trickle down tyranny. I also have a clip to go with this. And what it made me think of are these, these, you see this guy with pepper spray, right? Now, anytime a supposed non-lethal defense weapon has been marketed or introduced to the public as the police are going to now carry this, it's always introduced to us as a good thing. And it's introduced to us under the premise that, well, this is so if an officer has to defend himself, he doesn't have to use lethal force. Okay, so everybody says, well, hey, that makes sense. It's just less death, less carnage, and the officer, if he makes a mistake, then the mistake isn't permanent. If he shoots or tries to stop or detain by force, the wrong individual, case of mistaken identity, the person isn't dead because of a mistake. So the public goes, oh, that's great. Hey, instead of shooting me by accident, they'll just incapacitate me with 50,000 volts or, some pepper spray. Well, two things about this. One is these guys have a lot more in their arsenal than just pepper spray and tasers, as if those weren't bad enough. And I'm going to go down a list of some things that they have. But number two, these devices are no longer, non-lethal defense weapons for officers. These are actually offensive torture devices to be used on you to make you comply and submit. And I really don't think there's any doubt to that statement whatsoever. All you have to do is watch a little bit of the Occupy Wall Street demonstrations across the country and then ask yourself, why aren't other demonstrations like Penn State and Tea Party movements, why aren't they subjected to the same type of treatment? The reason is that the Occupy movement is really a threat to the system. That's one reason. And the other reason is this is the movement that's going to be used for divide and conquer to get us to fight against each other. So the police are 100% responsible for the escalation in violence at these protests. 100%. Okay, all right. You know what? Let's throw a variable in there. 95%. I'll go with that. But some of these devices they have the tasers. Remember we have, and we reported on this, they have the little tiny drones with taser capability. We have a pain ray, which makes the victims of the pain ray, makes their skin feel like it's on burning and it's on fire and makes you fall to the ground writhing in pain. In all the tests for this pain ray, no one's made it past 5 seconds of being hit with the pain ray. Then we have LRAD cannons, which are sound cannons. If you don't think sound can be used as a weapon, just do a little research on LRAD and watch some of the demonstrations. Your eardrums, your auditory canal can become extremely painful. It feels like a knife is being stuck into the side of your head. I know this from personal experience. Then we have these shotgun taser bullets. All right, if you haven't seen these little beauties, they look like a big 12-gauge shotgun shell, except when they're shot out of the taser shotgun rifle, little spinning propeller comes out the back, and it just jams itself into you and electrocutes you with, I think it's 50,000 volts or whatever it's going to be. Those go for about $100 a pop per bullet that our tax dollars are paying. So we're paying to get shot with taser shotgun shells, right? Then, of course, we have rubber bullets. We saw the effects of those on the veteran Scott Olson. We have tear gas canisters, which can be deadly if they're fired at your head. And then we have a little beauty that they say is still in the testing phase. The testing phase, by the way, people, is they use it overseas in Afghanistan and Iraq and wherever else they want to use it. And then they make sure it works really, really well, and then they bring it back here to the States. This thing is called a pulse energy projectile, and it shoots a plasma beam that heats the air around the surrounding targets until the air actually ignites on fire. Yes, that's what our tax dollars pay for. That's the research, that's the R&D to keep the American public in line. Now, if you don't think we are living in a tyrannical society, I don't know what to say. I think that I guess unless you really grasp the seriousness of it from knowledge of history and understanding progression, then I think that it's only going to take you experiencing some of these things firsthand to wake you up. And unfortunately, that's usually too late. But let's check out this trickle-down tyranny and see if it's kind of on point with what I was saying here about ideologies and belief systems allowing people to justify and to convince themselves that they're on the side of good when they're on the side of evil. And you don't pepper spray an 80-year-old woman. You don't throw an 80-year-old woman down a flight of stairs. You don't pepper spray people sitting in a peaceful line. Obviously, no threat to you unless you have become seriously compromised in your thought process. So now you could justify that to yourself, like you're on the side of good. But here's the article. Let's check it out. This is out of Natural News. When I read a story yesterday about an 89-year-old woman being waterboarded by a nursing home staff over an argument about ice cream, I knew something terrible was amiss across the American landscape. Spontaneous acts of tyranny have been cropping up lately like cancer tumors. A food tyrant in Nevada raids a farm picnic. Remember, we covered this. And orders everyone to destroy their food. Remember, they wouldn't even let them feed it to the pigs. They made them pour bleach all over their food that was grown on local farms. But of course, we don't acknowledge the fact when all the recalls for E. coli and any type of other gross stuff has all been done by corporate farms. No, we don't talk about that. We don't acknowledge that in the mainstream media. But spontaneous acts of tyranny have been cropping up lately, like cancer tumors. A food tyrant in Nevada raids a farm picnic and orders everyone to destroy their food. And student protesters in California get pepper sprayed by thuggish cops who clearly enjoy causing pain and suffering. I watched all this with a sense of sadness and disgrace for the human race, and then a realization hit me like a sledgehammer. People are only following by example. These random acts of tyranny aren't really random acts at all. They are the infantile acting out of behaviors the childish American public has witnessed being demonstrated by their quote-unquote leaders. The TSA sexually molesting air travelers isn't just a violation of fundamental human rights. It's also a demonstration to the mindless masses that this is now, quote, normal behavior in society. And you can see that, people. You can see when you bring these topics up, people are like, oh, yeah, well, that's really bad. You know, not understanding that these are not just random acts. This is an ideology. This is a system being implemented. I mean, you guys do understand that when they cracked down on all these Wall Street protests, I believe it was last Saturday. Was it last Saturday? Across the board at like 1 a.m. in the morning. This was a coordinated effort through Department of Homeland Security. This is why the federalization of police forces is such a threat to your sovereign rights as a human being. Okay? This is why the government's supposed to stay out of the states. Okay? But now you see what's happening when they are not staying out of the states. When they're federalizing police forces. They coordinate these efforts across the country, and they come in sweeping in and destroy people's personal property and jail people and use violent Nazi tactics against peaceful protesters. And this is the problem with the federalizing of police forces. This is why you don't want that. But of course it's sold to the public that, well, we're going to help fund your police force so they can have the latest techniques, the latest technology to, quote-unquote, keep you safe. Yeah, keep you safe from yourself and each other. It's craziness. So as the masses observe big government, this is back to the article, everybody. So as the masses observe big government reaching down their own pants, they now get the message that it's okay to sexually molest little boys at sports stadiums, or that it's okay to take children away from parents through CPS and then rape them as part of child relocation, quote-unquote, processing procedures. When the American people see George Bush set up secret military prisons and condone waterboarding, torture techniques, they call for Obama to stop the practice. Obama promised he would. And then not long after becoming president, he expanded Gitmo and actually presided over an increase in funding for the military and all its secret torture facilities. You guys understand that our government, right, they try to wash their hands of the dirtiness. They try to wash the blood off. They try to cleanse themselves by setting up a secret military detention center in, say, Uzbekistan, okay, and then have whoever they want tortured flown over to Uzbekistan or whatever stand, okay, and they torture the hell out of you, cut off your genitals, cut off your kids' genitals while you watch, okay? But it's not being done on quote-unquote American soil, so the American government washes their hands of it. Of course, they take all the information that's extracted from the tortured individual, and this is all done with no trial, no jury. You know, all the things that made America supposedly free. But back to the article. So the message to the American people: if Obama supports it, then torture must be okay. After all, he won a Nobel Peace Prize, so quote, peace must be something that can be achieved through torture. Thus, we should not be at all surprised when an 89-year-old woman gets waterboarded in a nursing home. After all, those staffers are only doing to her what they've watched the U.S. leaders do to other human beings as well. And this is where the dumbing down of America comes in real handy. It's a lot easier to brainwash stupid people. Although, if you recall my conversation with a rocket scientist, who obviously is an intelligent man, but clearly brainwashed, it's not always the case. So I don't think IQ comes into play a lot. I think it's actually reasoning skills. And to be honest with all of you, I really don't know how reasoning skills and IQ are related to each other. Don't really know that. I equate it to street smarts versus book smarts, you know, But anyway, I mean, to me, the scariest person is an ignorant person. That's what scares me more than somebody who looks physically more intimidating than me. Is somebody who is completely ignorant to the reality around them and is willing to enforce that false reality that they live in on you. That's what's the scariest thing to me. And that's what we see with the actions of these police officers. How ignorant can these people be? You know, if I'm not mistaken, these guys work for U.S. dollars. That's what their pensions are all based on. That's what they do. That's what they get when they cash their checks, is dollars. I don't think they work for drachnars or euros or, well, actually that wouldn't be better, or any other type of crazy currency. No, they work for dollars, and they're getting destroyed just like the people they're hurting are. So the agenda's in full swing and working perfectly. Anyway, back to the article here. This phenomenon of everyday American people mirroring the behavior of federal authorities who act as tyrants needed name. And as I began to ponder this issue, the name came to me in a flash. I called this phenomenon trickle-down tyranny, and I think that's an excellent name for it. You know, one point about where the article says when the American people saw Bush setting up secret military prisons, and then, you know, they called for Obama to stop it, and he just expanded on it. You know, this is a blinding example of why there is absolutely no difference between a Democrat and a Republican, you know, at the level of presidency, of the president or Congress. I mean, look, even the 9/11 Commission said that there needs to be a reinvestigation of 9/11. Okay, I mean, I'm not going to go into all the things about 9/11 right now, but the one thing I will go into is that Bush and Cheney refused to testify under oath. They also refused to testify separately. So you only do that if you have something to hide. So if I'm the next president coming in, right, and I've just campaigned to you American people for the last 12 months, telling you about all the wonderful things and all the peace I'm going to spread and how tyrannical and how the last administration, you know, all the laws it broke and how it's destroyed America. But then I get in there and I get all the power because the Democrats control the entire thing, the House and the Senate for the first 2 years, right? Because the Republicans, that's such a crappy job according to the voters, I guess, if the voting system actually works, which I really don't believe that it does. You know, then why, when the new guys come in, why aren't they bringing up the former administration up on war crimes or crimes against humanity? I mean, if you're basing an illegal, if you're starting an illegal war based on lies, i.e., weapons of mass destruction, don't you think that deserves a little investigation? But no, what does he do? Well, he does a couple things. He, one, says, let us not live in the past with 9/11. It's too painful, everybody. Let's just move on. Really? Move on. Okay. Then, not only, and I won't get into, the whole preventative detention doctrine penned by the Obama administration. I won't get into any of that, all based on 9/11, which is why we needed a reinvestigation, which is why the next guy should have investigated, which he didn't, obviously. But not only does he do that, but when Haiti suffers from a odd earthquake, and we have to look at Obama and Clinton and Bush all up on the White House lawn, arm in arm, having a kumbaya moment, telling all of us, hey, everybody, we need some support for Haiti, but don't send jackets and food and blankets, okay? Just send cash. Just send cash. Meanwhile, none of that money made it there. I've done all reports on this down in the past, so you guys, check that out for yourselves. Yeah, that's right. The UN workers living offshore on these luxury yachts they rented when they're supposedly there doing relief work. So it's such a scam and a sham. And I get so aggravated when I see anybody purveying this two-party system, when anybody takes the time to point out a Democrat and Republican as this person is bad because they are supposed Democrat and Republican. All that stuff does is just, again, fall right into the divide and conquer technique and get us arguing amongst ourselves about Democrats and Republicans. They're no different. They're all the same. All the same. Anyway, back to this article. So, calling this phenomenon trickle-down tyranny. Let me see. Let me see if I can cut to the chase here, as I'm babbling along too much. All right. So, trickle-down tyranny happens because the political leaders of America have broadcast a message across the nation that terrorizing innocent people is not merely okay, but downright patriotic. And you know what? You can see this in shows like 24 and this new HBO show called Homeland or some crap like that, where they're like, we got to torture this guy, and they're like, that's unconstitutional. And without finding out information, if we don't find out this information, there would be no Constitution. So you see, it's this crazy circle of trying to justify torture to keep you free. It's asinine. It's asinine. You know what? A very simple way to look at this is all the torture, all the war, all the supposed war on terror. How's everything going out there? Great? Are we getting more peaceful? No. Now we have streetlights that watch and listen to you. What do they think, that Al Qaeda's walking down Main Street, USA? No, it's to watch us. I'm not going to continue going on with that article because I could spend all night on it, which I probably should have. But I will be posting it up on the Front Facebook page and the website, frontradio.net, so you guys can check that out. I am going to play a clip that kind of has to do with that a little bit. I just want to prove once again that the supposed war on terror is really a war on you. There is no Al Qaeda that wants to kill you because you feel that because they think that you're too free. You're too free, so they want to kill you. This coming from a bunch of guys that pay no taxes, live out in the middle of nowhere, do it pretty much whatever they want, but, you're the free people that they hate so much. Let me see. I want to play this short 1 minute and something second clip from Hillary, where she admits, hey, the United States made Al Qaeda, well, now we got to fight them because they're all out of control. So check this out.
So if you think if we walked away from this, didn't give them money today, it would be worse for us from a security standpoint.
I do. We're building a relationship that just did not exist. I said in our last trip when you were with me that we had a huge trust deficit, in part because the United States had, to be fair, we had helped to create the problem we're now fighting.
How?
Because when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, we had this brilliant idea that we were going to come to Pakistan and create a force of mujahideen, equip them with Stinger missiles and everything else to go after the Soviets inside Afghanistan. And we were successful. The Soviets left Afghanistan, and then we said, great, goodbye, leaving these trained people who were fanatical in Afghanistan and Pakistan, leaving them well armed, creating a mess, frankly, that at the time we didn't really recognize. We were just so happy to see the Soviet Union fall, and we thought, okay, fine, we're okay now. Everything's going to be so much better. Now you look back, the people we're fighting today, we were supporting in the fight against the Soviets.
So there you go. And well, Hitlery. Let's not forget that, of course, we, Obama and you all asked the American people to back the quote-unquote Libyan rebels, i.e. NATO/Al-Qaeda, in toppling Gaddafi and implementing Sharia law. I guess that's what our government calls a democracy, is Sharia law. And, of course, they call military rule democracy because that's what the poor people of Egypt are under. And, by the way, Egypt has now renamed their secret police to Homeland Security. Well, I guess since the United States is the primary funder of the Egyptian military, they just wanted to pay a little homage to their bankrollers and say, hey, we're going to do our own little Homeland Security over here. How do you like that, Egyptian people? Out of the frying pan into the fire. With ya. That didn't work out too well for those people, did it? No, sure did not. But again, I don't own a cable network subscription or satellite, so I don't see mainstream media. I don't know if any of the plastic talking heads are making the point that the Egyptian people did not find freedom through their revolution. They actually went from the frying pan into the fire and now under a military dictatorship where the military has outlawed any protests, and they will kill you. And we support that. We support it. Don't know why we're all not out in the streets right now making big changes and stopping this crap. I really don't know why we're not out there. Don't know. All right, so we're going to move on from trickle-down tyranny. I really made it through hardly any of that article, you guys. It's a 3-page article, so I'm sure it has some good stuff in there. I will finish reading it after the show, and like I said, you can check it out on the Front's Facebook page. All right, again, call-in number is 1-917-889-3064 if you decide to weigh in on anything, or you want to correct me or bring up a topic, whatever you want to do. All right, so we're going to move on to some chemtrailing. Now, I did ask the other day, I believe it was Sunday, I noticed massive chemtrailing in my area up here in FEMA Region 1, so I threw a little thing up on the Facebook, on the fascist book page, asked people if there's chemtrailing in their areas, and there was. It seemed like all around the Northeast and some down in the southeast, the eastern border, heavy-duty chemtrailing action. Now, it's so funny. You can go out in public, and I was out with some family today talking about chemtrailing, and someone didn't even know what it was. I mean, people, I don't blame this individual for not knowing what it was, but you have to ask yourself, you're outside. You're 30 to 40 to 50 to 60 years old. The skies didn't look like that when you were younger. Don't you see the difference? Don't you want to know what that grid pattern is in the sky? Don't you want to know why there's X's in the sky now? Don't you want to know why there's lines of chemtrails of what appears to be vapor trails that seemingly hang around forever, spread out and make a big hazy sky, wouldn't you just notice the difference? And this is what scares me. This is why we have trickle-down tyranny. This is why there's a deliberate dumbing down of this country. This is why, according to George Bush in his, faux town hall meeting that they all do now, where he had his arm around that one woman who worked 3 jobs, and he's like, yeah, it's uniquely American. You work 3 jobs. It's uniquely American. Yeah, you are so damn distracted trying to keep up with the Joneses and get the latest electronic device and keep your head above water with taxes and mortgages and car payments and insurance payments and medical payments and all this other crap that takes up the majority of your living time on this planet that you don't even notice the shit going on right up above your head. It's craziness, man. It's crazy that people don't see it. I'm going to repost a chemtrail vid that I shot in my area a year ago. It's been about 13 months ago. I shot it in this big parking lot, a big parking lot. It's a Walmart, grocery store. I mean, all kinds of stuff in this big parking lot, this big plaza area. And I'm out there with my iPhone pointing up in the sky, just talking to myself, going, oh, my God, look at that. It was crazy. I felt like a cockroach being sprayed. And there's people looking at me like I'm weird because they look up and they don't even bat an eyelash about what they're seeing in the sky, and they go in the store. It's like I feel like an invasion of the body snatchers. Like, where are these the pod people around me? What is this? Who are you people? And what have you done with the other humans? So, for anybody that still doesn't think we are being sprayed by a militarized geoengineering operation, maybe you'll believe the tinfoil hat wearers, okay, over at, where are we here? Don't even tell me it didn't upload. Over at the Massachusetts, give me 1 second, you guys. This is amateur radio. These are the subtle nuances that make it so, different, likable, quirky. Okay. Hold on. I've got it. You always have to remember what you label these sound bites as, or else you'll never find them. Blog Talk Radio is not the most efficient, sound bite. Doesn't have the most efficient sound bite library. Okay. Here we go. This is out of the Massachusetts School of Law, where her name. I wrote her name. Oh, man. Oh, here it is. Sorry. Papers abound, everybody. Her name is Dr. Isla Sandra Pelengiri, and she's an author, an educator, and environmental writer. Okay, and no, this is not some, hippie greenie talking about the environment. She's telling you your weather has been weaponized and not for the greater good. So, again, from the tinfoil hatters over at the Massachusetts School of Law.
In the 20th century, clouds were seeded by numerous countries around the globe with various chemicals to produce rain. China was just doing this over the summer in Beijing to make sure that there weren't any rain, that there wasn't any rain during the Olympics. But all this has changed dramatically with the U.S. military's secretive research and plans to control the planet's natural weather. This has not been given very much press, and we have to remember that we have a corporate-owned press where 85% of radio, television, and print media is owned by 5 corporations. So they're not going to talk about things that are of really serious consequence, and that's somewhat of the blessing a mixed blessing of the Internet, but there's certainly plenty of information on weather modification. The Air Force is on record as saying, quote, they want to control the weather by 2025, and we are not talking about just seeding the clouds for rain. Weather modification means, quote, any activity performed with the intention of producing artificial changes in the composition, behavior, or dynamics of the atmosphere, unquote. And as of April this year, there are more than 150 different weather modification programs around the world. Since about 2000, the Department of Defense and the Department of Energy have been spraying the entire United States sky with a toxic brew of chemicals and other biologic agents. Do we have that? Just want to show you something. We have two different kinds of trails in the sky right now. One are called contrails. How many of you know what contrails are? Contrails are what have been around from the ends of planes since World War II. These are very, very short exhaust trails that usually evaporate within a few minutes. You just look up at the sky and you'll just see a jet, sometimes with 4 trails, but it evaporates pretty quickly. How many of you know what chemtrails are?
I do.
Nobody. The military and some commercial planes are spraying us with what are called chemtrails. I want you to look at these. And oftentimes, before there's a weather front, there are heavy assaults from these planes just before a weather front has changed and comes in. Military and some commercial jets have been fitted with huge barrels of at least 49 different kinds of documented chemical poisons. Among other documented ingredients in this toxic man-made clouds are pathogenic molds, fungi, weaponized viruses, and made in some places like the secret site at Fort Detrick, Maryland, which is supposed to be a cancer site, but there are a number of scholars and professors tracking this that have big questions about this. Barium and nanoaluminum particles. What do these do to the human body? Barium is an alkaline earth mineral. It was discovered in 1774. At low doses, it can act as a muscle stimulant. At high doses, it detrimentally affects the heart and the nervous system. Barium is toxic to all mammals, and that means not just humans. Aluminum, which is the most abundant metal in the Earth's crust, is known to diminish kidney function and destroy brain cells and cognitive function. Just think about it. Just between the aluminum and the mercury that we're breathing all the time, we've got already a serious issue about brain function and cognitive function. There is also documented evidence that the aluminum in chemtrails is released as nanoparticles, and that when they reach the Earth's environment for wildlife, in lakes and streams, it's causing serious problems with wildlife there. Researchers are also finding that nanoparticles interfere with the growth of plants. Nanotechnology is totally unregulated. Just this past month, a new research report came out showing and documenting for the first time that these nanoparticles actually go through the skin. Well, if you breathe them, whether they go through the skin or whether you're inhaling them, it's still a problem, a serious problem.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and the leader in multimedia education for the public.
There you go. So there are those crazy conspiracy theorists over at the Massachusetts School of Law telling you, now people, I don't know, we can, the things, the ingredients that she was talking about in the chemtrails, aluminum, barium, funguses, viruses, why are we not Why are we not doing something about this? I don't mean writing your congressman. You know what? We can sit here all day and spit out warm, fuzzy, let's do it this way, let's do it that way. But to be honest with you, look, none of that's going to work. We need to make a more radical type movement to end this type of behavior. We have to. They're never going to stop doing it. No government in history has ever pulled back its reins of tyranny. Okay? Unless they were destroyed. None. So if you don't think this is only going to get worse for the people of the United States, and this chemtrailing for my international listeners, oh yes, there's international listeners. Every NATO country is being sprayed like this. So now that you know that you're being sprayed with deadly toxins, poisons, and metals, are you pissed? You want to do something about it? One thing that we can all do is wake people up to it. I was on a roof a few years ago, and I've told this story a couple times. I was on a roof a few years ago redoing a roof with some family members, and told one of the family members who doesn't believe anything that I talk about, whatever, ignorance is bliss, but there's not even much bliss there. There was a plane flying, 2 planes flying in the sky. One had a regular contrail. The other was laying out a nice thick chemtrail. And I said to the person, I said, hey, look, do you see the difference? He looked right up in the sky and then looked me right in the face and said, no, I don't, and continued to work. That's the type of ignorance that scares me. Because if people can be convinced or so blinded to something right in front of their face, their minds are completely malleable to any type of suggestion that somebody could implement there. So that's the type of trickle-down tyranny. That's why trickle-down tyranny occurs. Malleable minds like that, sold on ideologies and belief systems like patriotism, nationalism, crap like that, all those bullshit isms. So there we go. As I said, the tinfoil hat wearers over at the Massachusetts School of Law telling you we're being sprayed by our government with deadly chemicals. And if chemtrails and harps didn't disturb you enough, have you heard about Morgellons? Have you heard about Morgellons? For those unaware what chemtrails are, we'll try to do our best to give you an accurate breakdown of how I found out about them. This is an article, by the way, and what I've learned since. I'll also include some health remedies that I came across, which may be of some use. Yes, before I get into this article, a funny comment in chat. Before I get into this article, anything that helps pull metals out of your system would be a good thing to get into, i.e. some bentonite clay, for example, will help pull out metals out of your bloodstream and out of your system. So that's a great thing to take on a daily basis. Bentonite clay, people, it's a homeostatic homeostatic supplement. It'll just levels everything out. If there's too much clay in your system, you'll get rid of it, and it'll keep exactly what you need. It helps helps for all the systems to become homeostatic, or put them all in a homeostatic state, which means balance, for those of you that don't know. But around October of 2009, this is back to the article, I heard that our government was spraying us with chemicals from airplanes. I should have immediately investigated further, but I didn't investigate further for a long time, many months later. Why? Many reasons, not least because I was consuming high levels of fluoride and my diet was basically eat what comes my way. As this began to change, I gained enough sanity to start to notice the chemtrails more and investigate further. I experienced so many synchronicities around this time, typically indicative of change in one's life. Eventually, what I uncovered baffled and disgusted me. I would like to stress that I do not need to do not seek to alarm anyone with the information presented here, although it is alarming. You know, when you come to the realization that you are being sprayed, it's alarming. The government, as most people believe, is here to protect you. They are not. They are here to protect the corporatocracy. That's what they are here to protect, not you. You are the machine that fuels and funds the corporatocracy with your labor and your money and your efforts and your life. Morgellons is downright creepy and exhausting to even think about. I'm really not surprised why I just found out about Morgellons now, despite having researched and filmed chemtrails for over a year. Here's the downfall about not reading an article before I go on the air. I end up reading a lot of crap instead of getting right to the meat of the article. You know what? I'm going to try to just highlight the meat of the article from now on for all of you. Hey, we're always looking to improve here on the front. Frontradio.net. All right. So, where am I here? Morgellons is downright creepy. Okay. I only seek to encourage much-needed debate and research. Many of you will already be familiar with a lot of this, but if you bear with me, it eventually gets more interesting. Okay. A brief note to the skeptics. If you exhale in the winter, you can see, okay, this is proving that chemtrails are real. We already proved that by the Massachusetts School of Law, who's always known for spitting out conspiracy theories, right? There are many weather modification programs ravaging this earth. The spraying is happening in at least all NATO countries. Even the UN admits that geoengineering projects are occurring. It's getting coverage in the mainstream media now. An NBC-affiliated station called KMIR reported on it. Zen Gardner succinctly writes, quote, if this is news to you, see the U.S. military paper Owning the Weather by 2025. It says it all. Like chemtrails, just the patents for all this technology is a total giveaway. That's a great point. I have seen the patents. Just search patents for geoengineering and you will, there you go. It's all you need to prove it to yourself or anybody else that's willing to open their mind for a minute. The denial is very close to being over. This expensive project in its many various forms is happening. The ominous programs are supposedly to fight global warming, but global warming is a hoax. And the chemtrails are making us sicker. Yes, global warming, man-made global warming is a hoax. It has been debunked, okay? And you know what? You don't even have to go into it factually. Just use your common sense, okay? Just use your common sense. And here's the common sense perspective on geoengineering and it being done to help you, to save you from man-made global warming. If a politician is aware of something that he can pat himself on the back and tell you he's doing a great job for you, then you would hear all of these politicians having geoengineering on their platforms when they run for office or re-election, because they could tell you what a great thing they're doing for you, how they're saving you by chemtrailing you and geoengineering the planet. But they don't say that. And the reason they don't say that is because it would lead to a lot more questions than they want to answer. It just takes common sense, people. You don't need to debunk it with facts or statements from organizations like the Massachusetts Institute of Law. Just think. Just think. That's why you're dosed down with fluoride and the chemicals in your food chain. You know, when you eat junk food, you know, your body's a big electrical processor, right? There's all types of electrical current running through you, and that's how your brain works, and that's why you think faster, think more clearly. If your system's bogged down with a bunch of shit food and no nutrients, you don't drink water, you drink soda and a bunch of other crap, all the water, the interstitial fluid between your cells gets all mucked up, and those electronic signals, they don't flow as efficiently, and you can't think clearly, and you can't free think and critical think, and that's what they want. And that's why it's a multifaceted agenda to dumb you down and to use you up and eventually kill you, okay? And it's across the board with organizations like the EPA and the FDA and the IRS and the CIA and the blah, blah, blah and the blah, blah, blah. Come on, we can all throw it together. So, mystery shrouds this branch of knowledge, and even, this back to the article, sorry. Go off on tangents for you new listeners. I go off on tangents once in a while. Mystery shrouds this branch of knowledge, and even for those who've gotten their feet wet, the invitation to investigate further is often lost in a gigantic sea of information, wars, protests, chaos, distractions, routine, and an endless bombardment of crisis after crisis. Order out of chaos, the New World Order mantra. Order after chaos, Order out of chaos. Sorry. It's sad and hauntingly effective. In a sad and hauntingly effective effort to curtail the truth, we are told there are simply new types of clouds these days. Just new clouds. No reason to be alarmed, everybody. Just new clouds. These new types of clouds just popped up, just like this fire tornado and this death ray. And supermassive hurricane snowstorms in October, and earthquakes in Massachusetts and F3 tornadoes in Massachusetts. It's just stuff just popping up. Nothing to see here, everybody. It's all caused by you exhaling and driving to work, causing man-made global warming, you evil little miscreants out there trying to support your families. How dare you? As for the meteorologists, they seem to either not care or are ignorant. Them not reporting on this is like a nutritionist or a personal trainer recommending you eat at McDonald's. I would never do that as a personal trainer. I would never recommend you eat at McDonald's ever. Ever, 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 ever. Meanwhile, television and cute little computer-generated Disney films and other Disney propaganda gets children used to seeing the weather behave in strange ways. Images of chemtrails are being found in many commercials, advertisements, and products just to pacify us. That is absolutely true. You can see chemtrailing in all types of things. It's just the normal sky. You know what? Let me ask you. If that was a normal sky, don't you think you would see it in artwork throughout the ages, throughout history? Don't you think that you'd see it in pictures and old movies? No, you don't see it because it's not normal. No, don't eat at Burger King either. Somebody asked that in the chat. Images of chemtrails are being found in many commercials, advertisements, products. Okay, I read that. Sure, some of it must not be intentional, as there are so many chemtrails it's hard to take a sky shot without seeing them sometimes, but many of them are intentional. People can barely salvage memory of Osama being a CIA asset or that Western powers used to be friendly with Saddam Hussein. One decade Saddam is a friend, the next he's getting hung medieval style. Does anybody even remember the West speaking fondly of the Egyptian dictator one week and then not fondly the next? No, most people have no memory. And I say that too. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing how short-term our memories are now? It's just anything that's rolled out to you in clips, in sound bites, is the new reality. We forget what happened. And that's what makes people unable to connect the dots. All these flashing images, these short-term memory things, blips, blips, blips. All your information is given to you in seconds of sound bites and videos. Remember when MTV first came out? People were like, "Oh my God, the videos, they move so quickly. It's kind of screws with your head." It's conditioning. It's called a television programming. Television programming. Get it? All right. Let me see here. Am I going to get to the... many can't even imagine an aerosol project so evil, so they try their best to avoid thinking about it or discussing with anybody. For many others who are a little less cowardly, all they need to wake up is to look up. I don't know if that's something to be proud of or it's a shame that people even have to be told to look up. It's probably both. If you're reading this, go look outside right now. There's a good chance to see a plane spraying your sky. It's not even exaggerating. I used to keep a tally of the days they were spraying until I noticed it was almost every day, even at night. Oh, I've seen chemtrails in the moonlight many times. Chemtrails in the moonlight. And if you don't see something being sprayed, there's a good chance to see lots of bizarre straight lines that we did not used to see in the past. Now, where the hell is the Morgellons in this damn article? Huh. You know what? I bet it's in the video clips that were in the article. All right, well, this will be posted up. I apologize for that, you guys. I apologize. Or perhaps this article, oh, you know what? I'll tell you why. That's why. When I was getting this article ready, it was huge, 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 huge. So I just took the beginning part of it. My bad, but it'll be up there for you to read. My point was, my point was just to get into chemtrails a little bit more in depth. Wasn't as in depth as I had hoped, but I hope the clip that I played for you drove it home. All right, I am running out of time. I had some big stuff I wanted to talk about. Let me blaze through this, and I'm going to end the show on a good note with some excellent survival technique news. Okay, emergency lighting. Where do you check this out? It's pretty cool. Why is emergency lighting in a disaster scenario? Because lighting makes you feel comfortable and you can see. So it's good. You need it. But before I get there, let me just give you a brief update on Fukushima, which I do not touch on enough, usually because it's just too horrific to even contemplate. But as of November 21st, architect of Fukushima Daiichi Reactor 3, Ahara Haru, the former president of Sega University, had an interview on 11/17/2011. In this interview, he admitted TEPCO's explanation does not make sense and that the China syndrome is inevitable. He stated that considering 8 months have passed since March 2011, which is when the earthquake occurred, without any improvement, it is inevitable that melted fuel went out of the container vessel and sank underground, which is called China syndrome. He added, if the fuel reaches an underground water vein, it will cause contamination of the underground water, soil, contamination, and sea contamination. Moreover, if the underground water vein keeps being heated for a long time, a massive hydrovolcanic explosion will be caused. You guys remember, for those of you who have been listening to the show for a while, the day after the 9.1 quake in Japan, the tsunami wave and the consequential meltdown of Fukushima reactors 1 through 4, I believe 5 and 6 are in meltdown too, I believe, but to play it safe, let's just say 1 through 4, but I'm pretty sure all 6 are in meltdown. I said this is going to result in the northern Japan becoming a wasteland. And then a while after, I said if this continues, it's going to hit the water table and massive nuclear steam explosions will take place. And here we go. Now, I'm not pointing that out to say that I'm right about everything. I'm not. I've admitted many times when I've been wrong because I admit we're all just trying to figure this out. Okay? We're all trying to figure this stuff out. But now it seems that the things I talked about are becoming a reality. So with a massive hydrovolcanic explosion being imminent, and this is according to the architect of Fukushima Daiichi Reactor 3, so the guy probably knows what he's talking about, will be caused. He also warned radioactive debris is spreading in the Pacific Ocean. Tons of debris has reached the Marshall Islands as of November 15th, 2011. Now, here's a breakdown of a full China syndrome meltdown, 4 stages. A full China syndrome meltdown will begin with the nuclear power plant's vital cooling system somehow becoming completely disabled. At the same time, the plant's operators would not be able to shut down the reactor. With the cooling system unable to circulate cool water around the radioactive fuel rods, they would overheat and melt. The reactor would then get so hot the steel walls in the container core would melt. Remember when at Fukushima when they were trying to douse it in salt water? But then, they realized, well, now all the salt's piling up and burying the reactors. Now they can't get to it to cool it. Brainiacs. This is why nuclear power needs to go away. It is not safe. It is nothing that it was sold to us as. The premise that it was sold to us under was a lie, was a complete lie. Is your energy bill cheaper? Is your world safer? Is your world cleaner? Nope. None of the things you were promised were true. But, again, do we have anybody at the presidential level throughout history, bringing people like this to justice, stopping these things? No, we don't. Because if you're going to be president of the United States, you have to go along with the agenda. If you do not, you catch a bullet in the head. So, as they try to cool the fuel rods, the steel walls in the containment core start to melt. In a complete meltdown, uranium fuel rods reaching temperatures of 2,700 degrees Celsius would turn to liquid and melt through the earth about 15 meters. At this depth, they would react with the groundwater and produce large explosions of radioactive steam and debris. The explosion would shoot radioactive materials such as iodine, strontium, and cesium high into the sky. Those particulates are a quarter the size of a grain of salt and be carried by winds. Radioactive ash would be carried much further. And the other thing, the possibility is, with a hydrovolcanic explosion, nuclear explosion, has the possibility of creating a radioactive tsunami wave. So, but good thing under the Barack Obama Peace Prize winning administration, completely transparent for the people administration, the EPA decided 3 weeks after Fukushima to no longer monitor ambient radiation across the United States, and Canada followed suit as well, turning off their radiation detector system. Nothing shady going on there. Now, elevated, I have this other article that getting close on time, called Alert, News Blackout, America Becoming Radioactive. On the Front's website, frontradio.net, if you go to the top toolbar, there's a button that says Live Earth and Sky Tools. You can click on that, and it'll bring you to a pretty funky weather page. A lot of interaction going on there. Check it out. Where you can click on the radiation network link and get live readings of radiation across the country. Those radiation readings are taken in what measurement, I'm not sure. Jules in chat, if you could just tell me real quick, is it in millisieverts? Is that what the radiation detector readings are in? Millisieverts? I believe it's millisieverts. I'm not sure. I think we had a reading of 365 down in Florida the other day, and I believe anything over 100 is considered alarming or dangerous. But again, people, please don't quote me on that. I could be getting those numbers wrong, but I do know that no exposure of radiation is safe because it is a compounding effect and builds up in your system. You know, like the TSA tells you that the naked body scanners are completely safe, yet Europe pulls them because of radiation exposure. But don't worry, it's safe over here. So this article talks about the media blackout as far as radiation goes. The article goes on to say the mainstream media and federal government are conspiring to black out the escalating nuclear disasters in Japan and how radiation is affecting America. Radiation levels are increasing across North America. Chances are you've eaten radioactive food and didn't even know it. Yeah, I actually went shopping for produce yesterday, and I had to ask the guy, I'm looking for apples, and I'm like, please, would you point out any apples that are not grown in Washington and Oregon? Please. And he brought me to some. I explained to him why, and then he tried to tell me how the FDA has our back, and I just patted him on the back and said, brother, the FDA and the USDA does not have your back, as Monsanto sits on the board of both of those things. So, anyway. He just bought and went back to his job. Chances are, so scrumptious Fukushima, the food supply is becoming contaminated by Japanese radiation. The U.S. government and much of the mainstream media is studiously ignoring the massive health problem that one nuclear expert claims is 70 times worse than the Ukraine nuclear disaster at Chernobyl. Well, of course, Fukushima has gone into unknown territory, or I'll say this, supposedly unknown territory. I am pretty positive that there's a lot of people out there, including members of the NRC, the Nuclear Radiation or Regulatory Committee, that know exactly the effects that this is having on the planet and the population. Oh, by the way, those, thank you in chat. Those radiation readings in the radiation network are counts per minute. Counts per minute. Not millisieverts. Was it millisieverts per minute? The counts of millisieverts per minute? I'm sorry. Too much to keep in my little head. So the food supply is becoming contaminated by Japanese radiation. The U.S. government and the mainstream is studiously ignoring the massive health problem that one nuclear expert claims is 70 times worse than Chernobyl. Dairy, strawberries, mushrooms, all testing positive for cesium-137. University of California, Berkeley has discovered rising radiation in selected produce grown in California. 6 items were tested: spinach, strawberries, cilantro, topsoil, grass, and mushrooms. Measured in becquerels per kilogram, 5 of 6 items in the U.S. food chain sampling test have radioactive particles. Jesus Christ. Oh, God. And people, it's funny when people go, what are those people at Occupy Wall Street so upset about? God, I can give you 10 things that are going to fry your brain and that you should be pissed about. We've covered 3 or 4 of them tonight. And none of those are being addressed at Occupy Wall Street. So there's plenty of reasons to get pissed and get in the streets and try to make a change and try to inform people, everybody. Keeping this stuff a secret to yourself does nobody any good. It just hurts people. That's why I have the need to do this radio program. Radioactive strontium found in Hilo, Hawaii milk. Since April 2011, the EPA and others have been finding radioactive particles in milk. All right. I'm going to, this is another good-sized article. So I'll be posting this up. You want to check this out, learn more about how the country is becoming more radioactive and what you can do to stop it, okay? Or not to stop it, but to keep yourself healthy. One thing is you want to fill your thyroid with healthy iodine from kelp or an iodine supplement so that radioactive iodine does not occupy your thyroid. Occupy your thyroid with healthy iodine. That's a new movement. But all right, here's some good survival news real quick. Bushcraft emergency lighting. If you need a light, people, this is just really cool. And you have an orange and some olive oil or some other type of oil, what you do is you cut an orange in half, you scoop out the fleshy part, the stuff you want to eat, so eat it. You leave that long piece of white, it's called pith, okay, P-I-T-H, for any of those people out there that think I'm saying something else. It's called pith. I don't have a lisp. It's the white part that runs up the middle, right? Leave that there in the middle. Fill the orange peel with olive oil and get some on the pith and light it. And you have yourself a little orange lantern. Pretty groovy, right? Some alternative vessels. Okay, when it comes to long-term preparedness, we only need to look back at our ancestors' knowledge to affirm that their methods for surviving were pretty damn effective. So the most simplistic and archaic type of lamp is the Canaanite lamp and dates back to 1500 to 600 BC. This type of lamp is made from terracotta, and although it isn't the safest type of lamp to walk around with, it would definitely be a good source of light for stationary use. And I'm going to post this article up, and it has videos of how to make these little lamps. It's pretty cool in case of emergency. So like I said, you need light. I'm out of time, people. Sorry, I spent too much on tyranny. Too much time on tyranny tonight. So as the show is ending, I just want to say a few things. One, I want to thank the people that always show up in the chat room, the usual people. You know who you are. You're like death and taxes. Consistent, and I really appreciate you guys. All the new guests I see in chat. Thank you, everybody, for checking out the show. Look, I'm just a regular guy doing a show because I care. I might get some information wrong. My heart's in the right place. I try to give you as much truth as I know it. If you can correct me, please do. Shoot me an email at thefront@live.com. Check out the website, frontradio.net. Stay safe, okay? Your Thanksgiving weekend. Enjoy your friends, your family, whatever you do. Be thankful for something. I know there's a lot of bad stuff out there, But one thing you can be thankful for is that there are people out there working to help keep everybody safe with programs like this. And the way we can keep each other safe is through knowledge. Take these normal words of wisdom to heart. I'll see you all on Monday. Have a great holiday weekend.
Your choice is simple. Join us and live in peace, or pursue your present course and face obliteration. We shall be waiting for your answer. The decision rests with you.